Hey everyone, it's Amanda Stanley here from Lion's Tooth Wellness, and welcome to week 2 of your Best Self series. As you can see, I'm taking full advantage of the beautiful fall weather we're getting here in New Hampshire. So here I am outside, my happiest element to be, really. So please enjoy the scenery. Maybe you'll see a couple songbirds fly by, as I'm actually right by the bird feeders over here. We went through water last week, and we talked about the importance of getting our daily dose, half our body weight in ounces of water. And I hope that you were able to maybe shift some things around this past week, maybe get a little bit more H2O in your body. Maybe you saw some positive, sort of elements of what that did, what that changed for you in your day-to-day routine, or maybe you haven't played around with it yet, but I encourage you to, because just drinking water helps so many different things, and it's really, again, it's that founding block of stepping forward to improving your overall health. A couple of folks got back to me and shared some pictures and images and on Facebook and Instagram, which is awesome. Please keep that up and know that every time you post about the series, and it doesn't have to be really pertaining to each week, but really any topic that we cover, and you include the hashtag your best self and Lion's Tooth Wellness, that means that I can see it too, and I can enter you into the contest to win some Lion's Tooth Wellness herbal goodies. So I did figure out what I was going to offer you guys in the way of some prizes for being part of this and just to help you on your wellness path. And instead of doing one large package, I decided to break it up into 5 different packages. So that means 5 different winners will be able to receive these. So the first one is going to be an herbal immunity blend. So it's a delicious tea blend with elder and yarrow and hibiscus and ginger and lemon balm and all these other wonderful immune enhancing and cleansing herbs for you to enjoy. The second is my favorite Lion's Tooth Wellness germaphobe hand sanitizer spray. So it's all natural ingredients, nothing synthetic in there, and it's something that you can spray on your hands throughout cold and flu season, and even preventatively as a natural hand sanitizer that doesn't have all those nasty chemicals that a lot of hand sanitizers do. The third one is an herbal immune tonic. So that will be something that you can take daily, like a shot or a tablespoon in the morning to, again, preventatively work out any of those viruses or microbes floating around in your environment, to keep your liver toned, to keep your body flushed of toxins, and it'll taste really good, I promise. And then the fourth will be a lip balm set for those chapped lips that are certainly on the way as the season gets drier. The fourth is some herbal smudge sticks, which are basically aromatic herbs wrapped in bundles so that you can burn them like incense around your home to purify the energy and to promote just positivity wherever you are, and it just smells really lovely. So those are the little gifties I'm going to be offering you, again, through the rest of the series. So please post, put questions online, pictures of what you're doing around the series. Anything goes. I'm not picky about it. Please post it to any of the Lion's Tooth Wellness social media, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you tag me with the hashtag Lion's Tooth Wellness and your Best Self series. So keep that up. I look forward to hearing more from all of you. It's really exciting to connect with you in that manner. So today, moving on to topic number 2, another huge one that we kind of take for granted, and this is all about digestion. So what our digestion can say about our overall health. So digestion is, obviously, it's a huge thing. It's basically what keeps us running through the day. It's the fuel for our bodies to run and be happy and healthy. But all too often, we don't really pay attention to the signals that our bodies send us around digestion. So that could be sluggish stools, that could be burping or farting, that could be just like general gas and just intestinal discomfort, maybe heartburn. These are things that we're taught to kind of just manage with, Pepto-Bismol or Tums or whatnot. Like, these things just happen. Oh, I eat this and that's just what happens. Sometimes I have gas after this, or sometimes I feel a little upset. And we kind of just go along our days continuing to maybe have those habits or eat those foods that are agitating our intestinal tracts, because we're taught that those are normal things and they just happen once in a while. And that's true to a certain extent. But the much larger realm is that when our digestion isn't healthy and happy, our immune system also isn't healthy and happy. And it just makes everything else work harder, not only to absorb the minerals and nutrients that our bodies are trying to absorb through digesting of the food we're offering it, but also the detoxification process and how much liver work we're offering, or how much work we're offering the poor liver to kind of take on, as well as the toxins that sometimes will sit in our guts, especially if we're not moving our bowels once a day. So Where to begin? Where to begin? The first and foremost thing that I like to bring up is the quality of the food. And although this is another thing that's like, well, yeah, obviously, you know, vegetables are better than junk food and whatnot. I think even on a more like specific, broad way of looking at food, it's about not just like junk food versus vegetables, it's the quality of the food that we're eating. So certainly, like, I don't believe in black and white in the world. You know, I get stuck in that sometimes, that I believe in balance. I believe like in living in the gray. And so I'm not someone who says you can't have cookies and you can only have organic salads and, you know, whatever. Like, I don't want to go this or that. I like to enjoy both, you know, and everything in moderation. So that importantly definitely relates to food and taking care of oneself, because food should be a really enjoyable thing for us, and we should be able to indulge in it and just enjoy the process of eating, because I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I think everyone should look at food not just as nourishing the body, which of course that's its first and foremost purpose, but also to feed the spirit with enjoying all the delicious flavors that food can offer our spirits and our hearts on a different level. So jumping back to, like, you know, not just vegetables or not just junk food or whatever, it's about the quality of the food. So, you know, certainly going to the Hannaford and buying a, you know, Hostess chocolate chip cookies versus going home and cooking chocolate chip cookies from scratch with ingredients that you got to choose, you know, maybe organic flour and less processed sugar, or maybe maple syrup instead of sugar, and adding like the organic nuts and sending the love of just making yourself something, making you and your family this from scratch recipe of chocolate chip cookies is far more nourishing to your body. And it's fresher, it has more vitality, even though it has things like sugars and flours that, you know, are certainly not healthy and healing for everyone's body. And it's not something we should have every single day and in large amounts. It's something that is fresh. It has some vitality left. It hasn't been sitting in a box on a shelf for goodness knows how long. And before that, it was in a warehouse sitting on that shelf for goodness knows how long. We have more control over creating these things from fresh. So again, it's the quality, not necessarily what we're eating all of the time. So my first sort of, you know, what I'll offer to you first is eat whole foods. Buy foods that you need to prepare and cook into a meal. Don't buy prepackaged food. Don't buy foods that are frozen, that are microwavable, that you just have to add water to. Buy foods that you have to cook and you have to add together and prepare into a whole meal. Those are the ones that have the life force, that have the nutrition, that are more viably available to you and healthier for you, regardless of whether it's, again, beet salad or oatmeal cookies, okay? And I'm not saying you should eat cookies every day of the week either, but it's all about the quality. So whole foods, anything that doesn't have a barcode. Again, seriously, just ditch boxes and bags and cans and, you know, all of those things. Buy things in produce, buy things in bulk, grains. Certainly meats are packaged, you know, those are a little bit harder unless you work on a farm and you can kill your own animals to eat, which is fantastic if you can. But otherwise, you know, keep it whole, keep it fresh. And yes, it takes a little bit more time and preparation to cook whole foods for you, but I promise you it makes all the difference for you and your health in the long run. And of course, our digestion, which we're going to be talking about here. So whole foods versus processed foods, a huge, enormous difference just in that first decision that you can make. As far as cost, you know, there's one of those arguments, oh, you know, whole foods and organic foods are so much more expensive. They're really not. Certainly, if you're a big meat eater and dairy eater, those two things are definitely more expensive than like vegetables and grains and whatnot. But you don't need a lot of those heavy proteins to sustain yourself. You know, I would veer more on the veggies and grains, which are far more cheap. And then, of course, certainly get your meats and dairy in as well, but you don't have to do so in such a large degree. So it's still, when you look back at, you know, your grocery list and you think back to the days that you were just buying packaged foods and crackers and chips and granola and cereal, you actually spend way more money on those items than you would for vegetables and produce and bulk items. So look at it that way, because I know I always get that at back from my clients as one of the arguments of, oh, I can't do whole foods, I can't do organic foods, it's just too expensive. It's really not. It's really not that much more, especially when you're focused on buying the whole foods, the foods that are not prepared yet. You can save a lot of dough, and I always notice that in my own shopping habits. And it's also one of those things that you pay now or you pay later. When you're spending money on things that nourish you, you are adding money to your health. You are supporting the healthy habits that will keep you from spending money later at the doctor's office, right? So try to think about it that way as well. And of course, baby steps. Make the changes where you can. The other thing about digestion is not just about what we're putting into our body, but are we digesting it properly? One of the important factors of healthy digestion is healthy gut bacteria. And this has been something that's studied more and more. Like the last 5 years, there's so much information around healthy gut flora, around autism, around Alzheimer's, around so many different imbalances like depression and bipolar issues, mental health in all areas, gut health. So what does that mean? There is certainly in the small intestine, there are little microbes that are living in there, basically bacterium that are feeding off what we're eating. And some of them are healthy and beneficial for our gut health and actually boost immunity. And some of them are not and actually wreak havoc on our system and cause lots of gastric upset for us. And those are the ones that love sugars and they love alcohol and they love all the sort of not so great things that we tend to eat, you know, once in a while. We actually are feeding the bad guys with those sort of not so great habits around processed foods, around sugars and corn syrups and all those additives that are in a lot of our processed foods. So how can we sort of balance the good guy bacteria up and help to diminish the bad guy bacteria? So there are a couple things. One is just to eat more probiotics. So how do you get those? Probiotics are in any naturally fermented food. So kombucha, which is a fermented tea drink, I love it. It's kind of like a, it's carbonated. It's like a carbonated beverage. It tastes a little bit like vinegar in a way, which turns some people off, but you can get like really yummy fruit flavors like there's actually my favorite one is the green one, which has like kelp and kale and all these other greens, which might not be appealing to you, but they have like mango and raspberry and cranberry, and it's a bubbly, sweet but a slightly vinegary drink that has packed with probiotics that help to rebuild the gut flora and incorporate more of those healthy bacteria. Another one is sauerkraut or kimchi. So those are all you can find naturally occurring, not the canned ones, not the ones that have been pasteurized to death or overheated to death, but the ones that are say naturally fermented. There's one brand called Real Pickles that make real pickles. So real fermented pickles is another option, as well as kraut and kimchi and all those things. Tempeh, which is fermented soy, and they come in different packages. There's like a wild rice version and a flaxseed version, and then just plain old soy. This is a properly fermented soy. So people who are nervous about soy products, this one is one that you don't have to be because it is properly fermented, so your body can easily absorb it and not be as affected as like some of the really heavily duty, processed soy, like, the fake burgers and patty, like the sausage patties and bacon and all that stuff. It's not one of those varieties of soy. It's actually healthfully fermented and processed soy. So that's one that's really great for you, as well as miso. Miso is another fermented soy product that you can make into soups really well. And it's a fantastic, fantastic way to promote that gut flora. If none of those foods are appealing to you, and bear in mind, if you haven't tried them, please do. Try them first. Just don't assume there's some weird, like, health food, sort of fad food, if you will, and see if you like them, because they're quite delicious, and there's quite a large variety of all the ones I mentioned. Oh, another one I just thought of is kefir or yogurt. And mind you, a lot of yogurts nowadays, and even kefirs, which is like a liquid yogurt drink, are packed with sugar. So that's kind of, it contradicts itself, where the sugars are feeding the bad guys, while the kefir, or like the rest of the yogurt or kefir, is trying to promote the good guys. It kind of cancels each other out. So if you're doing yogurt, do the unflavored yogurt and add, fresh fruit to it, or add, something a little less white sugary, because typically it's just white sugar that they add to those yogurt snacks and whatnot. So certainly if you need something sweet in your yogurt, buy the plain and then add a little honey, or add a little maple syrup, or add some fresh berries or some apples chopped up. That will certainly still have sugar in it, but it's a naturally occurring sugar. It won't be as detrimental to that gut flora. And again, if these are maybe harder for you to get, or you're not sure about them yet, and you want to find another alternative to get some healthy probiotics, and you look to supplement with probiotics. Granted, there's so many different strains of bacteria that we need in our gut for healthy digestive function and immune function, but you can kind of rotate brands of probiotics, and there's a few great online companies that are discounted and still offer you a good quality probiotic. Granted, I love to support my local health food stores when I can. But sometimes when you're in a pinch and you need a discount, it's nice to have the other options online. So certainly go out to your natural health food stores and find some of these brands there. But if you can't, or if you're in a pinch, you need to save a little dough, also there are some online options as well. So look into those, because that's another fantastic way to get probiotics into your body. Of course, you take them on an empty stomach, so either first thing in the morning or at night after you've had dinner. So they can really, the capsules can open up and they can trickle down into your small intestine and start to take up root and help to function on a lot of different levels. So not only is immune function helped, but probiotics alone help with people who have excess gas, especially if the gas is on the smelly side, which we'll talk about in a minute, as well as constipation and IBS. Any issue that deals with unhealthy digestion, probiotics can help tremendously. So looking through foods and looking for a supplement, and you can do both if you want. I actually do both, and it's one of the supplements that I do absolutely encourage people to look into, is probiotic supplementing with those. So another thing that we think about this time of year is what we're eating. So not just from a whole foods perspective, but what we're eating and how we're eating it. So if you know me and you know my work, you know I'm a big fan of Ayurveda, which is it's a health and healing system based out of India and very strongly connected to yoga, and all of those sorts of practices around Indian culture and Indian history. So basically it helps us to reconnect to our own inner nature and how that nature connects to the nature around us. So it teaches you to tune in to the seasons and what that means to our eating habits. So not necessarily just eating what's in season for foods, which is very important and interesting to follow, absolutely, but also the sort of not the quality of the food, but the state of the food, so how we're preparing it. So as you've already noticed, I'm sure if you're living in New England around this area, it's getting dry, it's getting cool, and I'm already starting to put my wood stove on at night. So the temperature has dropped significantly, and I can feel the change in my skin and my hair, my nails, everything's just getting a little bit drier around me. Even my lips are starting to chap up a bit. So that needs to be sort of tuned into within your own habits for eating. So although summertime, when the hotness takes over, your own inner fire is hot, the fire of the sun and the heat of the summer is around you as well, you have that extra heat going for you. Moving into the fall, that heat is gone. So we need to kind of build and fuel that inner fire on our own to keep things functioning and moving smoothly. So salads, cold drinks, which we talked about last time, anything that's dry, or raw, those need to go to the wayside for the fall and winter. The reason for this is because our bodies are already dealing with the cold and dry and erratic energy within the fall season, that it needs that extra help to digest well, to digest properly and to assimilate all those nutrients. So when you're eating salads, when you're eating cold foods, it's really going against your inner nature, trying to balance out the outer nature, if that makes any sense to you. So basically, think cooked, warm, and well-oiled food. So what do I mean by well-oiled? I mean, add some good fat. So we're in a culture that's like anti-fat, and I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with fat. Certainly, there's something to be said for the quality of the fats that you're eating, but fats are so important for so many other functions. Just like we talked about how much percentages of all of our organ systems are created with water. Also, a lot of them, one of them most importantly being our brains, are fat. They are reliant on fat. So when we're stripping our bodies of fats completely, it is no good, no good, no good. So what am I talking about for some good fats? So like avocados, olive oil, sunflower oil, sesame seed oil, nuts and seeds and nut butters, fatty fish like the anchovies and salmon and mackerel, coconut oil, things that are just very rich in fatty acids. So looking to those things. Eggs even have a little bit of the fatty acid content. Spirulina is a wonderful blue-green algae if you're a vegan or vegetarian and you choose not to go the meat route or the fish route. Certainly getting those essential fatty acids that way is another sort of really great supportive measure to do spirulina. But it's really important to get healthy, good fats into your system as much as possible, because that helps to bring warmth and bring an easier digestion to those foods. So if you're someone who just like can't go without a salad, like that's just your lunch every day, I would still encourage you to maybe make like a crock pot chili, or, you know, something that you can bring in a thermos that's just like warm, you know, cooked rice or quinoa with veggies and tempeh or whatever you might do. You can still have your salad once in a while. I wouldn't say every day, but I would dress it well. When I mean dress it well, I don't mean like put Thousand Island on or like creamy Italian. I'm talking like oil and vinegar. Again, you need the oil. You need the vinegar to break it down and to really help to start to digest really those greens for you, because greens this time of year, the cold raw greens and raw vegetables, are so much harder for your body to digest. And notice if you're one of those people, especially this time of year, that once you have a salad or once you have an apple, a raw apple, or anything raw you might be snacking on, do you start to hear your stomach? Do you start to get gas? Do you start to have a little cramping after you've eaten that? Maybe you actually pass some gas. One way or the other. That is your body working overtime. So tuning into that. Excuse me, I'm going to grab my tea. My throat is drying up. That lovely dry season. So, well cooked, warm, and well oiled foods. So some examples. I love crock pots. I love doing casseroles. I love just soups and chilies and stir fries. You can do so much, whether you're a vegetarian, vegan, meat eater, it doesn't matter. Go on Pinterest, go online. There are so many awesome resources for fantastic recipes. You know, get out of your comfort zone and really look for new ways to experience your food. You know, we can all fall into ruts of eating the same darn thing all the time, but there's so much out there, and thank goodness for the internet for all these just exciting ways to eat new things. And I'll send you a link to a couple of my pages that maybe will inspire you even more. So specifically around foods, we talked about eating whole foods. We talked about eating cooked, well-oiled, warm foods or hot foods. I want to talk about two more things revolving around food, and one kind of is an adjunct to what I've already talked about, and I should have already mentioned it, but spice your food. We mentioned fresh ginger in our water to help stimulate that fire, the inner fire, the digestive fire, to kind of wake your body up and to start digestion moving first thing in the morning. The same thing will happen with when you're adding fresh ginger to your foods, when you're adding cinnamon and cumin and coriander and fennel, like what's in that wise water recipe I offered you. Excuse me. Star anise, cardamom, maybe a little chili pepper, not too much if you have a really fast digestion. If you veer towards the loose sort of yellow stool with maybe food particles in it, don't add too much cayenne or like the super spicy spices, because that means you're moving too fast. We need to slow you down a little bit. But think about warming, gentle warming spices to add. I usually like having like a savory spice mix set up in my kitchen and a sweet sort of spice mix. So one for like my oatmeal and then one for my stir fry. So sometimes cinnamon, cardamom, clove for one, and ginger, and maybe like cumin, coriander, fennel, turmeric, curry powder in another. It's really great to kind of make these things ahead of time, and then when you're ready to eat, just add a little pinch to whatever you're eating. And you doesn't need, you don't need much, just enough to stimulate all those flavor receptors on your tongue, to get those gastric juices flowing, to get the circulation moving, to kind of just prepare your body to digest your food even more efficiently, especially during this time of year where it is working overtime because it's a cold, dry season. So well-oiled, well-spiced, warm, cooked foods. So please think about that. And again, even if it's just adding one cooked meal a day into your week, slowly easing your way up if you're a raw foods person, if you're someone who just prefers it, and just notice the difference and tune in to how your body feels when you're digesting food. After like maybe even halfway through a meal and then 10 minutes afterwards, if you're feeling like you're burping or farting or getting crampy, that means whatever you're eating is not agreeing with your system and you need to support it a little bit more. And that doesn't mean that you'll never be able to eat whatever you had again, but it means your digestive tract is struggling a little bit. So looking to the probiotics, looking to adding ginger to your meals, and also continuing to use ginger in your water that you drink throughout the day, because ginger is a priming the pump of digestion all day long and detox all day long. So think of fresh ginger. And again, for those of you who don't enjoy the taste of ginger, because I know there's a bunch of you out there, try to bring in something else that you do enjoy, like maybe more lemon or a sprig of mint or something that you can kind of add to the water to make it a little bit more enjoyable, because ginger is so awesome. It's just a wonderful supportive aid for so many different things, but especially digestion. And the last bit about foods, specifically foods, is bitters and greens, how important they are. So I know you might think that I'm contradicting myself here, because when we think of greens, we typically think of salads, but I'm talking about greens you can cook. So leave the iceberg lettuce and the romaine out of it for a moment, and think about dandelion greens. Think about Swiss chard, think about spinach, think about kale, think about collards, think about, there's beet greens. There's so many different kinds of greens that we can chop up and make into delicious meals. And even like if you have children who don't like eating green things, like you can puree them into soups. There's even a cookbook, I think, who is it? I think it's Jerry Seinfeld's wife made one for kids. I've looked at it a few times. I don't actually own it, but she hides spinach in like brownies. I don't know. There's all these different ways to get your greens in, and of course you're cooking them. So they blend more thoroughly in recipes when you're cooking them well, especially soups and casseroles and whatnot. So play around with them. Again, I have another Pinterest page devoted to eating greens, so I'll share that link with you. But greens are so important. The other green food that people always struggle with a little bit is seaweed. Seaweed is amazing, and there's so many different ways to cook with it that you don't actually have to eat the seaweed per se. One of my favorite ways is to buy kombu, or like the really thick sort of stalks of kelp. You can get it at any natural food store. Even Amazon sells some really good quality kelps and dulse and whatnot. But kombu is one that I love to use in soup stocks, and even like in cooking grains, where I'll get the water boiling and I'll just stick the big stalk of kombu in there with the rice as it's cooking. So then as the water is absorbed into my grain or absorbed into the soup stock, it comes out of the seedweed into the water, absorbed into whatever I'm cooking, and then at the end of the recipe I just pull the kombu out in one big chunk, or sometimes it falls apart, but you just kind of get it in a few chunks and you don't actually have to eat it. Some people love seaweed. Some people who like salt will often like seaweed. Some people don't like the fishy smell or taste of it, and I don't feel like all seaweeds are equally salty or fishy, and I'm not really a fish fan, but I love nori, and you can find like those toasted nori treats, like sea snacks. You can get them in those little containers, and they're really delicious, and they're just toasted nori chips, really. And then you can also find like wakame strips, where you can just crumble them and sprinkle them into soups, and they really just dissolve pretty quickly almost, and they just bring a little bit more saltiness to your meal. So there's lots of ways. Look into seaweeds, and I promise you there's more than one way to eat it without eating it. So give it a whirl. It helps lubricate the gut. It helps to draw out impurities from your gut and pass them through. It's one of the top foods for radiation, for flushing heavy metals from the system, for even anti-cancer properties. It is amazing, and it's great for calming any inflammation in the gut, no matter where it is. It's fantastic. It's really such a potent plant and such a potent food that you can easily use and get all those vitamins and minerals in that are natural electrolytes from the ocean, that are so easily absorbed in our bodies, that we need those trace minerals. We really do. So seaweed's phenomenal. Please look into it. Don't be scared of it. Try a little bit. Get some friends together and do some cooking with it and experience it together. That was a funny noise. I don't know what that was. Okay. So seaweed. Another really important thing to tune into is your transit time. So what does transit time mean? It means tuning into your digestive tract and what its natural sort of cycle is. Typically, and lots of people have a different opinion. Lots of practitioners and doctors kind of go back and forth about what a proper transit time is. Typically, like when you look at children, when you look at pets, when they eat, they poop really quickly afterwards. Certainly we're maybe not as quick as infants and pets, but we should be, what goes in must come out. Certainly it shouldn't come out right away. We don't want to have dinner and then an hour later it's already gone. That would be on the higher end of digestion, meaning we're not assimilating our food, and that's sometimes why you'll see pieces of food in your stool, because our body is digesting it so quickly. It has too much digestive fire in there that your small intestine doesn't have enough time to absorb the nutrients properly, break them down, and get all the goodness in them. So one way to tune into that is to eat. You can eat 3 different things. You can have beets, you can have corn, or you can go out and get some chlorella tablets or chlorella drops to put in your water that turns your water this deep, dark, delicious green. And you can eat them or drink it. And then next time you see it again, it'll be in the toilet bowl, and you can mark like, okay, how long did that take? Typically, in a perfect world, you want to see that food again within 12 to 24 hours, 12 being awesome, 24 being like, okay, that's not awful, but let's try to keep it up a little bit more quickly. So that's a really great way to notice how quickly your body is digesting. And in a perfect world, everyone should be pooping once a day. And how should we be pooping? Not just little bunny pellets, not just like one little half piece. It should be a long, medium brown, sort of like question mark shaped, healthy looking stool. And this is always surprising to people. It shouldn't really smell. It should have kind of a benign, earthy-ish smell. Certainly it's not going to smell like flowers, but it's not going to be like smelling up the whole house, or, you know, being like, whoa, like get me out of here, with which some of us struggle with. If you are someone who has smelly gas or smelly stools, that just means that you have a little bit more stagnation in your gut. This can happen with people who eat a lot of heavy protein, because it takes a lot longer for our bodies to move it out and digest it properly. And what happens is that it slows the transit time and creates fermentation in your gut, so that basically gases are being built up in there and it's reabsorbing into your bloodstream. So those toxins that are sitting waiting to move out are becoming inflamed. They're inflaming the gut. The toxins are sitting there getting reabsorbed into the intestinal walls and then reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, creating inflammation really throughout the body. And it's creating this smelly gas because it's ready to move out, but it's sitting there for too long. So probiotics for sure will help this. Drinking water. Honestly, just when I notice I'm dehydrated, those are the days when I haven't maybe gone to the bathroom first thing in the morning like I typically do, and I'll bump up that water, and within an hour or two my body will have responded, especially when I've added that ginger water, and especially when it's warm. Warm water with ginger, it always helps that. So people with smellier gas look to just kind of boost the water, boost the probiotics, boost those greens. Did I talk about greens? Yeah, I did, of course. So why greens? I didn't really talk it to you about, why I wanted you guys to eat greens other than seaweed. That's because they are incredible bitters, right? Some are more bitter than others, but the flavor bitter stimulates the gastric juices, stimulates metabolism, and supports liver health, all that are vital to boosting a healthy digestive tract. So greens, 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 greens. The more bitter something tastes to you, the more you need bitter foods. And the more you eat bitter foods, the less bitter they eventually will taste to you. So give it a whirl. Back to transit time. So yes, so if you're someone who has smelly stools, look into the fact that you have some fermentation going on. You need to move that waste out. If you're someone who has like bunny pellet stools, where they kind of come out in little hard pieces and maybe they're dark brown, you need more water in your life. That's constipation pretty much. You need more water, you need more greens, you need more of the cooked, warm, well-spiced, well-oiled foods. And yeah, definitely water, 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 ginger, ginger, ginger. Someone who goes back and forth, the IBS, from soft stools to hard stools, really the same things that I'm reiterating here will really help every digestive complaint. But IBS is definitely more spasmodic. So you're trying to balance that again, just with drinking water, with eating whole foods, eliminating those irritating foods that are more processed and less wholesome. And incorporating, again, cooked foods. I know it's something that people struggle with, because having to prepare food is a lot more challenging than just eating raw foods on the go. But I promise you that cooked foods, no matter where your digestion is at, however imbalanced it is, starting with cooked whole foods really helps your body to get its reset back on, to get its balance back with digestion. So always start warm, cooked, well-oiled, well-spiced food. Start there. What else can I say about the different kinds of digestive upset? Acid reflux or heartburn is another one that a lot of us experience. That is similar to the folks that kind of eat and then an hour later they already are going to the bathroom. That's a heated digestion, only it's at the upper part of the digestive tract. So drinking water can help tame the amount of acid going on there. Sometimes I hear two things, and it depends on the individual. Sometimes there's not enough acid in the belly, sometimes there's too much, but water will help balance both. Tums will not. Tums makes your body fight with, okay, we're going to calm all this acid and flush it out, and then your body freaks out like, oh my gosh, we don't have any acid now, let's make some more, and then you take another tum, and then it washes down the acid, and then your body again is like, oh my god, crap, we need more, and it makes you rely on Tums to function at all when it comes to eating and digesting. So Tums is not the answer. Water, keeping spices to a minimum, eating cooked foods, getting the greens in there, getting on a good probiotic, those will all help really well. An herb that is particularly helpful for coating and soothing acid reflux is slippery elm. You can actually find slippery elm lozenges in a lot of health food stores, but you can actually make them on your own as well. They're really simple, and I'll share you one of my recipes to make slippery elm lozenges. It works for sore throats as well, but especially for acid reflux, and it's completely safe, great for inflammation, great for the entire intestinal tract, but especially acid reflux. And particularly acid reflux also is very much related to acidifying foods like coffee, like sugar, like booze, like fried foods, all those things that we love, like citrus. You gotta kind of push those off to the side, especially processed sugars. Those are the worst, like corn syrup. Read your labels. You can absolutely manage any of these issues just by being mindful of what you're putting into your body. You don't need Prilosec, you don't need any acid reducers, you don't need Tums. Regardless of what some people are telling you, know that so much of it, if not 100% of it, is manageable around what you are putting into your body, I promise. Especially around acid reflux. So all of these conditions will be completely supported by eating more cooked whole foods, by drinking your ginger tea and getting adequate water all day long, by adding more bitters into your life, by adding some warming spices, to noticing your transit time and how quickly you are allowing your bowels to move through, to noticing your poop and how it changes and shifts. It's really amazing that your body is able to give you signs and signals if you're just aware of them and you're not freaked out to check them out. Another thing besides looking at your poop and what that might say about you is the fact that you can look at your tongue every day in the morning. First thing in the morning is the best time to look at your tongue because it usually has some coating on it from the night. When we're sleeping, usually about 12 to 2 a.m., our body is doing the most detoxing because we're finally lying down, hopefully, right? Unless you're a night owl. And our body's finally like, great, they're asleep. We can finally get the liver going, get the body to really detox and start flushing some stuff. And a lot of the toxins will actually rise up onto the top of your tongue and sit there for you to check out in the morning. So how well your digestive tract is going, how well your liver is being supported will be indicated in what color the coating is on your tongue. You might not have a coating. If you're really great at keeping things moving, you're drinking your water, you're moving your body, the toxins are getting flushed properly through your system. If you're not, especially this time of year, especially during cold and flu season, we tend to have a whiter coating on our tongue, especially when we're fighting something off. If you ever are in the midst of a cold or flu, that's the most interesting time to look at your tongue because it's usually so coated because your body isn't well. It's fighting stuff off, so you can actually notice the changes going on through your tongue as you begin to heal. So it's kind of cool. If your tongue coating is on the yellower side or even browner side, that is typically either a liver. Yellow is usually a liver indicator that your liver is overtaxed and it needs some love and support. Brown, especially if it's on the back side of your tongue, can be your gut again. Your gut just needing a little bit more support and pushing things out and moving things out and avoiding that fermentation process that leads to the smellier stools and the issues of reabsorbing those toxins throughout your system when we're not digesting properly. So our tongue is a really cool way to notice it. And of course the other side of that is to be able to scrape that stuff off. So you can grab a spoon or you can buy something called a tongue scraper, and first thing in the morning take note of what your tongue looks like, how it compares from yesterday or the day before. It's a really interesting tool to check out. Scrape off that stuff, flush it down the sink, and just kind of enjoy that interesting process of being able to tune into your body and what those messages are for you. What else? What else? What's on my list here? Okay, so I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about are some of my favorite herbal allies that can help healthy digestion. And I talked about ginger. I talked about slippery elm already. What are some other ones? The mints. The mints are awesome for just general digestive support. So lemon balm is one of my absolute favorites. It's delicious. It's actually great for stress and anxiety. It's an antiviral herb, so it's great for preventative measures of colds and flus. It's an antispasmodic, so it's great for gastric upset and just soothing the gut intestinal tract. It's great for calming you down, especially for kids as well. It tastes good. It's really, really gentle. One of my favorite mints. But even spearmint or peppermint is a really great adjunct. Chamomile. Chamomile is a fantastic herb to use. It's specific for gas. It's specific for inflammation in the gut. It's another one to calm your mind and spirit. It helps to just, actually, what's really cool about chamomile is that depending on how you prepare it, if you have chamomile tea and you are steeping it for longer than 10 minutes, it becomes very bitter. And anything that is bitter, like I mentioned with the greens, helps to stimulate gastric juices and helps to get the metabolism going, help to promote liver function and move those toxins out. If you steep chamomile for 10 minutes or less, it's just a nice, gentle, digestive herb and really nerve relaxing as well. So it's another one that's really lovely just to kind of calm you down and relax you. It's one of my favorites, and it's super safe. Then the other herbs that will kind of go hand in hand with digestion on a different level is that liver support. So liver function is so important for everything. It takes the brunt of all of our daily activities, what we're drinking, what we're breathing, what we're eating, our hormones. The poor liver just has a huge job, and everything that we deal with on a regular basis has to be processed through our liver. So anytime that we are supporting our liver, we're supporting our entire body's functioning. So liver supporting herbs: dandelion root, burdock root, yellow dock root. Those are my top 3 favorite roots too, and they're local roots too, which is very cool. These all grow around us in the Northeast, and they're very bitter. Well, actually, they're not super bitter. Dandelion has a sweet note. Burdock is probably the sweetest of the bitters. Yellow dock is the most earthy, but they are fantastic remedies and allies in supporting liver health. A lot of dandelion tea that you can buy at health food stores is actually roasted and used as a coffee substitute because it has that earthy, bitter flavor to it. It's often combined with chicory root, another local herb that you can certainly use for liver support. Burdock root you can find, actually I went out for sushi in Dover the other night and I got burdock root sushi, and it was delicious. They pickle it and they wrap it up in nori and rice and whatnot. It had some avocado and it was delicious, but you can actually find it as a culinary food a lot, or again you can make it as a tea. And then yellow dock, another liver supporter, but this one's even more specific to those of you who find that you have pieces of food in your stool, or maybe you're on the anemic side, you just have a harder time processing and absorbing minerals and nutrients and assimilating them. Yellow dock is specific for that. It is iron rich, it is mineral rich. Well, all these roots are very mineral rich in general, but yellow dock has a specificity for people who are anemic, for especially women who are pregnant, nursing, need that extra iron and just mineral uptake to kind of keep things supported. Yellow dock is amazing for this. So I'll give you some links to check out recipes as well on how to use these roots as well. Teas and tinctures are first and foremost how I like to take them, or tonics, which is basically using herbs and roots in vinegar instead of alcohol. But I'll share some of those recipes with you to get those liver herbs into your system. And knowing, again, because these are bitter and not everyone likes the flavor of them, but flavor and tasting your medicine is so valuable. And as I said with the greens, the bitter greens, the more something is bitter to you, the more you need bitter in your life. And the more you eat bitters, the less bitter it will taste to you after all. So definitely eat your medicine, taste your medicine. It helps your body to understand what it's receiving and utilize it so much more. Capsules, I find, are just not as useful because you can't taste the flavor, and it takes a lot longer for your body to break down the capsule, and then make its way into your intestinal tract to be absorbed and utilized. So tincture, tea, or tonic, please check those out. So that is kind of my little spiel on digestion, and encouraging you to look at it a little bit differently, noticing when you're burping, farting, having diarrhea or having constipation or cramping, what are those foods? You know, what things can you do to help to support it? Again, doing baby steps, choosing 1 or 2 things to change in your routine and noticing how it serves you, because you don't have to do much. If you still haven't tried drinking more water, start with that first, because that's absolutely going to help your digestive tract just alone. And then maybe next week you can choose one of these things that we talked about today. So a lot to kind of sit on and digest, but I hope to hear from you on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever you want to post, wherever you want to ask questions, wherever you want to put feedback. Please do tag me, Lion's Tooth Wellness, and tag Your Best Self series. I hope to hear from you. So excited that you're joining me, and I will talk to you next week. Have a beautiful, beautiful week.